I'd like to say thank you to my friends, my beautiful friends, Lebo and Rehema, for inviting me. And I'd like to just say that I've known Lebo and Dudu for the last 10 years. So it's just such a great privilege to be here with them in South Africa. We were on a mentorship program 10 years ago in the US. They picked women from developing countries who they consider to be rising stars and put us together for 6 weeks in the US. And we spent time together. And since then, every 2 years, we have a reunion where we then reconnect with ourselves. I've just come back from Spain with Dudu last month. And we were here, I think, 2 years after the program, traveling across South Africa, Cape Town, and all of that. And after that session, everyone said, oh, Africa is so beautiful. We had friends from Argentina who said, we must have another reunion in Africa. And they wanted it to be in Nigeria. And I said, don't make a mistake. Nigeria is not South Africa. So congratulations, ladies. I'm really proud of you. I've come back since then, and I'm just saying this to emphasize on the importance of collaborations and relationships. And it's one of the things I'm going to be talking about as well when you ask me questions. So well done, and I love you guys incredibly. Incredibly. My South African sisters. So one of the things that I did that created that aha moment to say this is a serious business was I had sat down and done a calculation of how much revenue I had generated. This was maybe about 15 years ago. And a lot of entrepreneurs, small entrepreneurs, don't have the culture of tracking their revenue. And I was lucky enough to just sit down. I'm a Christian and we tithe. And one of the principles around tithing is you give a 10% of your income. Now, if you give 10% of your income and you decide to calculate the 10%, you realize how much money you actually made. So I sat down to just do that little assignment and realized I had generated, at the time, almost 10 million naira. And I was a bridal makeup artist, which meant I just went house to house making up brides. If anyone had told me that I could generate 10 million naira without even being strategic, then I realized this was a serious business. That was one. The second thing was, and of course after that I took my business more seriously and began to become more deliberate in terms of identifying where was the money coming from, chasing the money by identifying where's the money coming from. So if you generate 10 million naira, how much came from bridal makeup? How much came from products? How much came from any other support service like I want to train and become a makeup artist like you? And that's one. The second one was there was an interest by the consumers to be trained by me. So I was the first bridal makeup artist, which meant I was the first person who was charging and getting paid to do a bride. And it was a big deal. Because in Nigeria, you have your aunties just applying red lipsticks for you on the day of the wedding. But here I was an undergraduate in the university. I was still in university at the time. And I had the audacity to say, I'll charge you an amount and you would have to pay because I have this magical hand to make you look Beyonce. Right? And the minute I started getting requests by people who said, oh, you did my cousin's makeup last year. I would like to learn what it is that you're doing and start to do my own business. And that opened my eye to another business opportunity. And this is one of the things I say to entrepreneurs, is if you stick consistently with what you're doing, other doors of opportunities begin to open. And I didn't realize that could be a big business. But today, House of Tara has 19 centers. And Nigeria is a big country that's over 200 million people. Any business that has 19 centers in 36 states is a big business. Now, 19 centers where people are being trained in the northern part of Nigeria, and the southern, the eastern, and the western part of Nigeria is a business model that has sustained our business till today. So these are some of the pointers for me that I needed to take this business more seriously, and I'm thankful that I did.
And it's an interesting industry, the beauty industry, because I think traditionally you always think of women as consumers in that particular industry. And I'm interested in that moment of consciousness when you realize that here was an opportunity where women weren't limited to just being consumers, but women could be owners of the actual businesses in that space. When did that happen for you? Because I think for a lot of the women in the room today, they've also gone through a consciousness about not being consumers in the specific industries that they find themselves in.
So, of course, when you start a product line, one of the things, so I transited from not just being a bridal makeup artist, I started a school. But starting a school also meant the students needed tools. They needed makeup brushes. At the time, people weren't using makeup brushes. Today, I mean, this is standard, but at that time, so my business is almost 22 years, right? So at this time, there weren't brushes. People still used your puff, and that's all you did, all the little applicators for the eyeshadows. So, but starting a school meant I needed to now have tools. And I remember coming to South Africa, actually, to look for manufacturers. I was heavily pregnant at the time. And when I was speaking to the manufacturers, there's a company called Crayoline. And Crayoline, it's really, they were more into stage makeup, but they used brushes a lot. So I came to see them and said, I want my own brand of brushes. And is it possible for you guys to contract manufacture for me? It took them a while because obviously Crayoline South Africa was maybe a franchise or a distributor. And so he kept saying, well, it will have to come from Asia. He kept repeating Asia over and over again in the conversation. And so the question for me was, if he's going to be manufacturing it in Asia, why do I need to? Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So I came to South Africa and had that conversation, and I kept hearing Asia, Asia, Asia. Yet again, I'm going to talk about relationships. There was a young man who used to come to my office almost every day to while away time because he had some contracts he was doing with the bank. And when he arrives at that office, the person who's supposed to attend to him is never there. So they would say, wait. Rather than wait in the bank, he'll come to my office and we'll begin to talk. And he told me he had a Chinese visa and that was soon going to expire. And he didn't know, and he didn't realize, he said, the problem with that is if the visa expires, you may never get the visa again if you didn't use it. So it occurred to me that this guy, how did he even get a Chinese visa? And so I came back to Nigeria and I engaged this guy who's now my friend, and I said, how did you get the Chinese visa? He said, so I have these couple who are importers of shoes from China to Nigeria, and they were the ones who helped me to get the visa. What came to my mind is, can I talk to them to see if they could connect me with manufacturers in China? And of course, at this time, they still had their one-child policy. Remember, I was pregnant when I came to South Africa. Now I had the baby. So it was a cute little boy. And I went to visit this Chinese couple, older couple. They couldn't speak English. But the minute they saw the baby, that was all they needed. They didn't even need to talk to me about the business. They were so excited. But a young man came, Chinese young man came to serve the drinks and open the gate. I had a translator, but I could see that they were totally distracted with this baby. Anyway, at the end of the day, I left, and the young man who served the drinks called and said, this is my name, I'm the one who served you at this house. I am leaving Nigeria to go back to China. The kind of business you want to do with this couple is too small for them because these are big importers. I mean, they import shoes across Nigeria. So if you don't mind, I can help you to source for brushes and send them back to you and see how that goes. And he went to China and he sent me, 2 weeks he had sent me samples. What it said to me was, brushes was an opportunity, okay? He had done that. This is a great story I could have told, but I'm seeing that my moderator is looking at her book. So I'll jump the story, but it's a beautiful story I would have told. Just saying.
I didn't hear that.
And so the brushes came and it was launched. On the day it was launched, when the women came, they kept saying they thought I was creating a whole product line of foundations and powders. What it meant that they were interested in more. Now, when you start manufacturing from China, you're doing volumes of thousands. You have to think about your distribution. How am I going to distribute? So you have this thing, you have it in storage, but you have to distribute. I had to think about a model where this could be distributed, bearing in mind that we didn't have a modern retail infrastructure in Nigeria. Unlike in South Africa where you have malls, till now in Nigeria, I don't think we have more than 15 malls in a country of 200 million people, right? So this is today, but you can imagine at that time, this didn't even exist. So I needed to think about a strategy that will be impactful and I went into the university campuses. But what I did was to train the women, the young women, to become micro-entrepreneurs. So if you remember, when you were reading my profile, the federal government of Nigeria recently gave me an award for social impact and job creation. This is because of the number of years that I have been involved in developing micro-entrepreneurs, especially in the beauty space. So yes, these people can consume, but you know what? We can also create an entire model where they are the ones who are also benefiting from the entire value chain.
Sure. So thank you very much. And I think what you've done is you've touched on a number of themes that we've been talking about today. One of these, as you talk about the story of the brushes, start speaking to the value chain, right? So how do we see beyond the product that's right in front of us and look to see the extended opportunity? But we had another conversation this morning, and we were talking about the African continental free trade area and how do we get women to be drivers of trade and investment and opportunity across borders. Now, I know that you've broken out of Nigeria, and your expansion plans include other parts of the continent. The brand is already recognized globally. So if you could just reflect on that journey and your experience of breaking out of your own national confines, and how did that translate for you in the business?
So obviously, technology played a critical role in helping us determine what country we went to first. One of our penetration strategy was focusing around beauty business development. So it wasn't just about going into a country and selling our product. It was about impact, empowerment. How do you get women to build micro businesses from this as a platform? And in doing so, it meant, first of all, technology, our website, the traffic, where it was coming from, what people were interested in. We were able to track that information from our site. Social media, a bit of it, but not as much as on our website, our core website. And the first country that we found out, apart from, the countries where our website got the most hits was the United Kingdom, the US, and then thirdly, Kenya. Now, when we recognized that, we began to do some market research around Kenya, and we took the business into Kenya. Now, in going into Kenya and starting up, helping developing micro entrepreneurs, you don't want the products to be too expensive. And so one of the greatest challenges we had was the cost and the tariffs placed on our cosmetics when they leave Nigeria to Kenya. And almost you're paying a double. So we're importing from China and then taking to Kenya, making the product more expensive. So of course, the margins weren't as good in doing so. But we are also an impact business, and I think long-term, I think lives more than it is the revenue. And so if the profitability reduces, but there are more people are empowered and more women become entrepreneurs, that's how we define success as a business. And so it made sense. But now with this trade, the trade agreement, and they say, 95%, we don't know that cosmetics is one of them, number one. Number two, we also recognize that there's another challenge, which is movement, right? So how do I move from Lagos to South Africa without it costing too much? Today I have with us one of the ladies who came all the way from Botswana to Nigeria to come and be trained as a makeup artist. She's moved back to Botswana to start her own business, and she's representing House of Tara in Botswana. I would like to recognize my darling, oh gosh, your name, I want to recognize, can you please stand up? Let's just recognize you. Ohabile, right? She's actually originally from South Africa, and she came to Nigeria to train as a makeup artist, and we get a lot of people coming from across the continent coming to Nigeria to train as makeup artists, so it's great to see her. And we're talking about this just this minute, earlier on today, about the cost, not just the cost, how much time it takes for the products to move from Nigeria to Botswana. And we are now thinking, should we move from Nigeria to South Africa first, and then from South Africa to Botswana? She has to drive from Botswana to South Africa to pick up her goods. All that is a menace, and we love that. The company vision, House of Tara, is to be a globally respected beauty company of African origin. That has been our vision statement for over 10 years. So this is we believe. We believe that our business is not just a Nigerian business. We believe that it's an African business. Our product names are named after heroines from out of Africa, queens from out of Africa, from across the continent. We've always tried to promote our language, our legacy, our history through our products, our culture through our products. So it's truly, truly an African brand. And I've tried to see beyond Nigeria, but these are some of the real challenges. I love that they say Africa is ready for business. We've been on this journey for a while. I love that we can now collaborate, and we're collaborating with her, we're collaborating with other young women in other countries like in Rwanda, who are supporting in Ghana, who are also trading with the product. But it's welcome, but I hope that it works.
So my second last question, and I want to build on your response because I think it's a fantastic response in terms of lifting some of the realities of yourself and some of the people that are distributors are facing. If you had the audience of all the heads of state, of the 54 or 55, depending on who's counting, number of countries that we have on the continent, and you had the audience filled with all the heads of state, what would you ask for as a woman in business that is trading across the continent? And I guess the question, the response I'm trying to get to is, what needs to be true for you, for this continental free trade area, to actually work for women? Yeah. What would you ask of them?
I think, first of all, infrastructure development. We need to see trains. Right? I don't want to go to Gabon. I mean, we have students who came all the way from Gabon to come to makeup school in Nigeria, and they would have to fly from Nigeria to Togo, from Gabon to Togo, from Togo to Ivory Coast, from Ivory Coast to Lagos, just to come. And then we have people who are coming from Guinea-Bissau and would have to come by road and travel 4 days because there are no straight flights from Guinea-Bissau to Nigeria. These are the realities that we're facing. And I wonder how many other people, I mean, if you do a search online and say makeup schools in Africa, House of Tara will always come top, which means that other African countries are looking to attend makeup school in Nigeria and they're coming to House of Tara. But what are these limitations in terms of movement? So what I would, if the presidents were all here, I would say there has to be priority placed on infrastructure development around rails, and getting airline tickets cheaper. Like, it shouldn't be so expensive to go to Tanzania. It cost me, a ticket to Tanzania was almost the price of it. What am I saying? A ticket to the US. Yeah. It's ridiculous from Nigeria to Tanzania. And when it showed me the bill, I said, is this a ticket to the US? And it was not, and these are realities. So they need to find a way to either make it a cheaper possibility, or to invest more in rails. And if governments are collaborating and working together to say, how do we get to build trains between Nigeria and Ivory Coast, for example, or Nigeria and South Africa, and countries come together, it will be faster, I believe, because there's that conversations around unity and saying, how do we get businesses to better? That's one. Two, any business that is developing women should be given not just priority, they should be given tax breaks, they should be given tariff, any kind of break that is breakable. That's my Nigerian accent there. When I'm talking money, my accent changes. It becomes a thick Nigerian, that Oga accent. Yes. That's exactly what it is. So that, because we know that it's not just, when women are empowered, we know what it does, the impact it has on our countries and the economy. One of the things I'm so passionate about is to see more female millionaires. I'm not talking about billionaires here. Mm-hmm. Millionaires, because there are too many female entrepreneurs who are still far away from even seeing $1 million of whatever currency they are functioning in. And one of the things, my own personal vision is, by the time I'm 50, I want to have empowered 10,000 women to move from hundreds of thousands to being millionaires. Because the minute you see your first million, it changes the way you see your business and see that this is possible, which is what happened to me, where I did the calculations and realized I had generated 10 million, right? When I started to do 1 billion in revenue, it wasn't a big deal. I didn't celebrate. I didn't do it through a party, because it was just like, well, next, 2 billion, can we move to 2 billion naira? Next, we are now calculating in dollars.
Yeah.
Naira is now too small, right? But we need more women to get. So when we're talking and they're talking about, the richest blah, blah, blah in the continent, it will not always be men, men, men. Because women are still at the back, and because many women are still not extremely empowered, they can't open doors for other women because they are not in the doors anyway, in the rooms anyway. So it makes it difficult. I was at a conference recently, and a man was talking about how this women's conference is just lip service. And, when you say you are mentoring women, where are you mentoring them to? And everybody was laughing. I said, the difference between men and women, one of the differences, many of these men have been in positions for a long time. For a very, very long. Women are only just coming to the table. And so when you have these expectations of women, it's asking for too much. But we're going to get there soon. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in the Billionaires Club.
So, final question. What is the one piece of advice that you wish somebody had just told you early on in your journey as a businesswoman?
People, 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 people. 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 That's with my Nigerian accent for emphasis. People. And as we grow our businesses, some of us would employ 2 people, 3 people. Today, House of Tara has over 200 employees. The reality is that people make organizations, they make businesses. From the janitor to the manager, to the senior manager, to the director, it takes people. We as business owners, founders, need to be great communicators. We need to be able to communicate with people. We need to be able to connect with people. Soft skills are so important. Soft skills, as the emphasis I make when my children show me their school results around their friendships, it's people can't believe how much I ask questions around friends and relationships, because I found that if you don't have good people skills, you can't go far. And so no matter how great your product is, I don't know how many people watched Bill Gates, In the Mind of Bill Gates on Netflix. And his mother made so much emphasis around him stopping him from being a loner, where he was always in the room. I believe strongly, and he actually said it, that he would not be the successful Bill Gates that he is today if he had not factored in to ensure that his relationship with people was much better. And he talked about it as well. And so sometimes we're brilliant in our business ideas, we're innovative, but we don't realize that it's going to take that janitor who sees how customers react when they walk into the store, that you don't see because you're maybe more focused on trying to serve them, and that he can give you some counsel that if only you were a nice boss, he would have given you for free. So what I've taken away in my journey is that people are so important, and I've spent time in developing myself in that area. And so when you ask me what is some of the things that have enabled House of Tara, it's a commitment to the company. We have employees who you have to beg to go on leave. Like you have to, HR has to say you are mandated to go on leave. You have to shut down some branches because people are not going home. They're still working. And you say, no, you have a child, you have a husband, go home. And you have to start penalizing people sometimes for that because they're so committed. I mean, Dudu has done a training program for our leadership team before, and how it's impressive how passionate they are about the company. It hasn't always been that way. Stanford University did a case study about House of Tara, and one of the things, so please make sure you look for the case study on the website, on the Harvard website, and it's because it's a joy for us as a continent. And one of the things that I talked about was the role of passionate and committed people who have been in the company 10 years, 12 years, young people as well, who came into the company at 22, 23, and have stayed for 10 years because they're committed to the company. The reason why they're committed, people do not care about what you care about until they know that you care about them. And that is soft skills.
Right, so people don't care about what you want them to care about until they know that you care about them. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give Tara a big round of applause, please? Thank you so much, Tara, for joining us. Thank you. What a beautiful way to end this part of our day. At this point, I am going to be handing over back to Rehema and Lebo, who are going to just give us their closeout reflections. And it's an opportunity for me to say thank you for having me, for allowing me to serve you today, and for being so generous with your voices and your listening hearts as we engaged in conversation today. Ngiyabonga, thank you so much.